A recent thread by poker pro Ben CB sparked some controversy by simply stating the obvious, that if you want to succeed in any difficult endeavor, it requires hard work and sacrifice. In my mind, this statement was the type that was so plainly self-evident that it didn't even need to be said. So I was taken aback when some people expressed offense to his thread, even casting derision at Ben for encouraging so-called hustle culture. While it is true that some have found success by not putting in significant efforts, and it is also true that some that work very hard end up as utter failures, the sobering reality is that there's a direct correlation between a person's willingness to work and that person's likelihood to achieve his goals, whether that be skills, money, or power. Now, for some, life isn't all about that. A fulfilling life may just be about spending as much time as possible with loved ones. Some may find happiness by seeking out moment-to-moment pleasures. Others may prioritize freedom and not having to answer to anyone. Around here, we call these people homeless. But Ben recognized this fact in his thread, noting that his advice is not for everyone. And perhaps it was predictable that his message would create some level of resentment among his core audience, poker players, many of whom likely got into poker precisely because they didn't want to work hard and instead sought out the quickest and most pain-free route to glory. But for most of the rest of the world, Ben's words were simply plain common sense. The mindset he articulated is the same one that essentially every single lawyer, doctor, banker, and Asian person knows all too well. There's an established formula to life. The more you work, the more likely that work will bear fruit. And the highest achievers, almost without exception, were able to reach that status by outworking their competitors. This is not to say that to succeed, you must transform into a Buddhist monk that is completely detached from all worldly pleasures, and Ben recognized as much in his thread. But in this world, acquiring nice things and security requires an exchange of value. And the more you delay gratification by putting in time and effort when younger, the greater chance you'll have in the future to gain the currency needed to procure whatever it is that you desire. And the opposite is also true. The less work you put into the system, the less you'll get out of it. Again, this is fine if you fully understand and are willing to accept those terms, but many have the naive notion that the system will provide for and take care of them regardless of what they do or don't do. To these people, a word of advice. You may be on a path towards living a life filled with regret. Whether you realize it or not, every single person on this planet is on a path towards somewhere. And that path's destination is determined by each step you are taking in the present moment. And while it is possible to change the destination, the further and further you walk along one path, the more difficult it will become to traverse towards another. Our world is one of scarce resources, which many fungible people desire. Yes, it is true that certain people are born with or are bestowed during life certain advantages or disadvantages. But regardless of who you are or your status in society, there are millions of people that are just like you, and the number one thing that's within one's control that can set a person apart from his peers will be his willingness to work. And if you are unwilling to work, just keep in mind that others are.